Okay, we have a brother here. He has converted to Islam, and we wanna know more about his life before and after Islam. First of all, what's your name?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Omar Stephen Dodd.
MashaAllah. Where are you from?
I'm from Oregon, mainly the coast, the ocean.
MashaAllah. How long have you been a Muslim?
30, 40 years, long time.
MashaAllah, long time. How did you hear about Islam?
When I was young, I was interested in religion, and when I was a teenager, I was a part of the Episcopal Church, and I was part of the young people they called acolytes that wore robes and carried candles for the priests, and I was interested in religion, but I wasn't satisfied with the complications that the Episcopalian Church placed on religion, and I would try to study the Bible and read what were the instructions to people themselves, and one of them was in Matthew 10, the followers of Isa, radiallahu anhu, were to go about, traveling about, working for their food and their supplies and preach about the kingdom of God. So I tried to do this, and over a period of time as I was going to college, I ran into a lot of trouble because people weren't very happy about that. And eventually, though, I took a degree in anthropology and then went to the University of British Columbia in Canada and did a master's degree in linguistics. And so while I was at the library there, they have a huge Oriental library. It's a very big and important school. And I started looking at Arabic books and books about Islam. And I found many references to the prophets mentioned in the Bible and mentioned in Christian literature, and I was amazed. So I became interested in this, and this was in the mid-70s, just before the revolution in Iran, just before Khomeini.
Yeah.
And I talked to friends that I had working in restaurants, and there are a lot of Arab and Pakistani Muslim people in Vancouver. And at that time, there was not much interest in Islam. People had come to the West, and they were involved with the life of Jahiliyyah, ignorance of God, and just living their lives. But I would ask them about Islam, and they'd say, "That's nice that you're interested, but we don't do that anymore." And I'd ask about Ramadan, for instance, and they couldn't tell me much. So I read and read and read, and I continued to search for something about Islam. Kind of like an anthropologist, I felt that I had discovered in the literature something that didn't exist anymore, but I knew about it anyhow. So this went on for several years. And finally I came back to the States, to Corvallis, where I'd gone to school on my bachelor's work, and found a community of brothers that were creating a mosque, a masjid. And they were revitalizing Islam, and this was about 1979, right at the start of the revitalization of Islam, and I was amazed to find people who were really praying. And it turned out that the next week was Ramadan when I met these people, so I just stayed. And I stayed in that mosque 25 years. And when I retired, I was working at the university in computers, and when I retired, I went home to where I had grown up and then continued to visit the mosque, which is what I'm doing now. So I had a complicated path to learn about Islam, but I'm very, very pleased to be a Muslim, and I have a long practice involved with it.
Okay, good, good. Um, um, how can you describe your life before and after converting to Islam?
Before I converted to Islam, my life was kind of aimless and meaningless. I grew up in the 1960s in the United States, which was a period of time where there was a lot of uproar, a lot of problems, and I had a very strong moral sense about life, but there was no cohesiveness to that. There was no organization that would allow you to fit in. And so I can say I survived the 60s and the 70s, But after I got into Islam, Islam gives one of its Muslim followers a framework. Islam is a belief system, but it's also a practice. It's something you do and a discipline, and you pray 5 times a day. If you're not following the prayers and participating, then the Islam dissolves.
Yeah.
And so once you start doing that, then you have a religious aspect to your life that allows a framework to be established for the rest of your life, and you can master the rest of your life and control how you live with the prayer and the practice of being a Muslim as the center. And you also have a lot of friends and people to support you in that if you join a community. And so my life was much more stable and organized after I became a Muslim.
Good. Is there any book affected on you?
I think the first thing, I read the Quran, of course, translated into English, but I got very interested in Riyadh as-Salihin, which is called in English The Gardens of the Righteous, and it's a collection of hadith, or the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the sayings are accumulated in such a way as that they're very formative in giving you an impression of what was the life like with the Prophet at the time of the development of Islam in this book. Actually, there are two of them, 2 volumes, and I read them a lot. And then later on, I found out they read continually in the mosques as well. So that was an important book. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, finally, something to say to non-Muslim people.
I think I've said something that's important to the non-Muslims. People come to find out about Islam, and they find out about it in the media and in the news and things, and they get very confused. Islam is not the sum of a bunch of people's opinions. It is a practice. It is something one does. It's a discipline. And I don't care how much you try to learn about it, you will not understand it unless you practice it. You have to participate. So Muslims are doing, true Muslims are doing Islam. They're practicing it. The word salam means to surrender in peace to God. A Muslim is one who does that. So a Muslim is doing that. If you are doing that, then you aren't doing other things. You're doing this one thing, and you're concentrating on that. So if you want to understand Muslims, you have to get around them when they're participating and become involved in their lives when they're participating, because you can't learn much by just studying.
You're right. Okay, thank you very much.
Jazakallah
Thank you.
khair.
Thank you.